There is a place in America where the soil is volcanic, the winter air drops below freezing, and yet every single day, more than 20 million pounds of potatoes are lifted from the earth. This is not a small farm. This is not a family garden. This is the industrial heart of the world's French fry obsession, and you have never seen anything move this fast. Look closely at this machine. It weighs 80,000 pounds. It moves across the field at walking speed, but inside it, potatoes are traveling at nearly 30 miles an hour. A giant conveyor belt pulls them from the soil. Another shakes off the dark volcanic dirt. Another separates rocks and clods. And in less than 60 seconds, a potato that was buried underground is now riding toward a truck that will take it to a factory the size of 12 football fields. But here is what no one tells you. The potato harvest in Idaho does not stop for lunch. It does not stop for rain, and it certainly does not stop at sunset. These self-propelled windrow harvesters run 16 hours a day during peak season, cutting a swath through fields that stretch so far the horizon disappears. Each machine collects 100 tons of potatoes every single hour. That is 1,600 pounds every minute. That is 27 potatoes per second. To understand the scale of this operation, you have to first understand the soil. Eastern Idaho sits on ancient lava flows. The ground is porous, dark, and incredibly rich in nutrients, but it is also rock-hard and unforgiving. Farmers here spend months preparing the land. They rip the soil 6 feet deep. They install massive center-pivot irrigation systems that spray billions of gallons of water across the desert. They plant seed potatoes with laser-guided precision, every 12 inches, every row perfectly straight, and then they wait. 120 days after planting, the green tops begin to die. The plant sends every last drop of energy down into the tuber. The potato swells, the skin sets, and beneath the surface, a crop worth more than $4 billion sits waiting. The harvest begins not with a celebration, but with a destroyer. A flail machine moves ahead of the harvester, spinning metal flails that shred the potato vines into green confetti. This is not cruelty. This is necessity. The vines must be removed so the harvester can see the ground, and the ground is where the treasure hides. Now watch the harvester closely. The front blade digs 6 inches into the soil, lifting an entire bed of potatoes onto a web of steel chains. The chains shake violently, sending dirt and small rocks back to the field. But the potatoes keep moving. They ride up a steep incline, passing under a giant roller that removes any remaining clods. Then they drop onto a sorting table where human eyes do something no machine can yet replicate. Standing on that moving platform, workers watch for rocks the size of baseballs, for green potatoes that slipped through, for anything that does not belong. They have less than 2 seconds to react, and they work in shifts of 6 hours with only a 15-minute break. This is old-fashioned human vigilance inside the most advanced harvesting system on Earth. But the real magic happens when the potatoes leave the field. A convoy of dump trucks runs continuously between the harvester and the factory. Each truck holds 25 tons. Each driver has less than 10 minutes to unload, and the factory never ever stops. The Lamb Weston plant in American Falls, Idaho is a city of conveyors. Inside these walls, 300,000 potatoes enter every single hour. That is 5,000 per minute. That is 83 per second. And every single one of them will become a French fry in less than 45 minutes. The first stop is the flume. A river of water carries the potatoes from the receiving bay into the heart of the factory. This water serves 3 purposes. It washes off the remaining dirt. It floats away stones which sink to the bottom. And it gently moves the potatoes without bruising them, because a bruised potato makes a bad fry. Watch how they tumble. Millions of pounds of potatoes spinning and bumping and sliding through a concrete channel that never runs dry. The sound is hypnotic. A constant roar of water and rushing produce that echoes off the walls 24 hours a day. Next comes the steam. High-pressure vessels blast the potatoes with 250-degree steam for exactly 60 seconds. The sudden heat cooks the skin but not the flesh. Then the potatoes drop onto rotating brushes that peel away the loosened skin like removing a jacket. Nothing is wasted. The skins become animal feed. The steam becomes heat for the factory. The water is filtered and recycled. Now the potatoes are naked, white, and ready for their first cut. And this is where the machine you have been waiting for finally reveals itself. The hydrocutter is not a blade. It is a cannon. A high-pressure water jet fires each potato through a grid of stationary knives at 60 miles per hour. The potato has no time to crush or tear. It simply passes through the grid, and emerges on the other side as perfect uniform French fry strips. The grid determines the cut: 1/4 inch for thin fries, 3/8 of an inch for standard, 1/2 inch for steak fries. And the machine can switch between these grids in less than 2 minutes. No stopping, no slowing. Just a mechanical hand changing the die while potatoes continue to fly. But not every potato becomes a fry. Some are too small, some are too large. Some have internal defects that no camera can see from the outside. This is why the optical sorters exist. Arrays of high-speed cameras and lasers examine every single fry as it flies through the air at 15 feet per second. The cameras capture 12 images per fry from 12 different angles. The lasers measure thickness, length, and color. And if a fry fails any test, a burst of compressed air fires in less than 1/100th of a second, blowing the reject into a separate bin. These sorters reject less than 2% of all fries, but that 2% represents more than 3 million pounds every single week. Rejected fries become mash, or starch, or ethanol fuel. Nothing leaves this factory unused. The good fries now enter the blancher, a 100-foot-long tank of 170-degree water. The fries float through slowly for exactly 8 minutes. This step is invisible to most people, but it is the most important in the entire process. Blanching removes surface sugars that would burn during frying. It inactivates enzymes that would turn the fries grey, and it gives the fries that soft, fluffy interior that everyone craves. Out of the blancher and into the dryer. Hot air at 200 degrees blows across the fries for 90 seconds, removing surface moisture so the oil can properly adhere. Without this step, the fries would absorb too much oil and become greasy. Now the fryers, giant vats of vegetable oil heated to 365 degrees. The fries enter on one end and emerge exactly 3.5 minutes later on the other end. In between, they travel through a labyrinth of rotating drums and submerged conveyors that ensure every fry cooks evenly. The oil is continuously filtered, the temperature is continuously monitored, and the fries emerge golden brown, crisp on the outside, fluffy on the inside. But they are still too hot to bag, so they enter the freezer, a spiral tower 60 feet tall, with a conveyor belt that circles upward for nearly a mile. Inside, air at -20 degrees blasts the fries from every direction. In 15 minutes, the fries go from 365 degrees to -10 degrees, frozen solid, ready for transport. The final step is packaging. Giant hoppers drop exactly 2,000 grams into each bag. The bags spin, seal, and drop into cardboard cases. The cases stack onto pallets, and the pallets roll into freezer storage that can hold 40 million pounds of finished fries. Every day, 50 trucks leave this factory. Each truck carries 40,000 pounds of French fries. Each truck is headed to a different destination. Some go to fast food restaurants, some go to grocery stores, some go to airports, schools, hospitals, and military bases. Within 72 hours of leaving the soil of Idaho, those potatoes are being eaten in 40 different countries around the world. But here is the part of the story that almost no one sees. The people who run this operation. The harvest operators who start their day at 3 in the morning. The sorters who stand on moving platforms for 6 hours straight. The maintenance crews who climb inside the machines while the factory continues to run around them. This is not an automated wonderland. This is human endurance working alongside industrial power. One maintenance worker told us that the hardest job is changing the cutting grids. You have to reach into the hydro cutter while potatoes are still flying past your face. You have 60 seconds before the backup system triggers and the entire line stops. And if you fail, 40,000 pounds of potatoes back up behind you in less than 3 minutes. Another worker showed us the optical sorter control room, 12 screens, each displaying different data streams, reject rates, color distribution, length variation. She watches all of it simultaneously, making adjustments every few seconds. One mistake, she said, and a whole batch gets rejected. One batch is 20,000 pounds. And yet, despite the pressure, despite the noise, despite the endless conveyor belts that never slow down, there is a strange peace inside this factory. The rhythm of the machines becomes almost musical. The falling of potatoes into the flume sounds like rain. The hiss of the steam peelers sounds like a sleeping giant. The clatter of the sorters sounds like 1,000 tiny drums. This is industrial agriculture as art. This is the hidden world that feeds us without asking for recognition. And it operates at a scale that is almost impossible to comprehend. Consider this single number. The potatoes processed in this factory in 1 hour would fill an Olympic swimming pool. In one day, they would fill a football stadium 4 feet deep. In 1 month, they would fill the Empire State Building from basement to antenna. And this is just one factory. In Idaho alone, 30 different potato processing plants run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So the next time you bite into a hot, salty French fry, remember where it came from. It came from volcanic soil and midnight shifts. It came from machines that move faster than the eye can follow. It came from a conveyor belt that never stops, never sleeps, and never slows down. And somewhere in Idaho right now, another potato is rising out of the dark earth. Another truck is backing into the loading bay. Another optical sorter is scanning another perfect fry. The factory does not know it is feeding the world. It only knows to keep moving, because the harvest waits for no one. The trucks keep coming, the belts keep turning, and tomorrow, 20 million more pounds of potatoes will begin their journey from the soil to your table. This is the industrial potato empire. This is Idaho, and you have only seen the beginning.